So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Hubbardson Finance Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and/or the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via Zoom, which we're doing. In the event we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website a comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Excellent, thank you. I'm scrambling from call to call here, so I don't have the agenda in front of me. I'm assuming I have Ryan going first. Excuse me. But in any event, because Ryan's availability is limited, Ryan, if you could go first with your report, that'd be great.
Okay, so, and I'm sorry I'm double booked tonight, but I think I have enough time to get this all in. So things to consider later, and I don't need to be here, are the $8,500 transfer for the police department roof. This fell in during the workday. Luckily, no one was hurt. I think I've discussed this before with you, but we did end up fixing that, and we're asking to transfer from the reserve into the Slade building because we expect, unfortunately, further repairs, and that budget's pretty tight. Second thing is budget goals. So I sent an email out to everyone talking about how you can direct me in the budget process as we look towards a year where we expect there to be less revenue, what we should be focusing on. So I think we have enough reserves and capacity to attack a couple problems, but we certainly can't attack them all. So I'd love to see some finance committee goals on the budget process, how you want things presented, what do you want us looking at? And they can be very general and get more specific as we move along in the budget process.
What is your timing? What is your timing for that? When would you like that?
We are going to publish the budget calendar on September 28th. And then I will be starting, believe it or not, 22 on around that time. So
okay.
It comes earlier and earlier.
Yes, I guess it does. Okay. I'm thinking that I would want the entire committee to have this conversation, so we'll schedule another meeting to do that.
Okay, so I'm going to take you quickly through last year, just so you can see where we're at, because that's important. So
Okay.
this, I'll start with the revenue side.
Yeah.
So I told you, one of the goals, you can see my spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this revenue report is all the money that comes into the town. So property taxes, all the way through local receipts, motor vehicle excise, and miscellaneous revenue, et cetera. So when I show you the budget document later and we say revenue projections, that's what we tell DOR in this column C. And then we compare it against actuals, and actuals is what I use to project the future budgets. So next year we will look back 7 years, throw out the top and bottom, and create a 5-year average to project what we might get for certain revenues. So this is the actual report for the end of FY20. It is not official because there's little tweaks that have to happen as we close the year and make sure the books are clean and to audit standards, but it's pretty close. So this percent in column F as we move down is how much of that category that we collected. So 97% on our real estate taxes. I would challenge folks to find a much higher rating than that. So we're pretty happy, especially in a COVID year, that we collected 97% of what we billed. And that we continue to creep that number up in later years as our tax liens come in and our tax titles go through. Excise, we collected more, so which means we're projecting it correctly. We're not being overly aggressive with what we think we'll take in for new car sales, is especially important next year. These penalties and property taxes, those are pretty much a guess, but they're coming in right. Pilots, this column here, we're
Yeah.
looking at these because it keeps coming in much higher than we thought, which means I'm paying attention to this line to make sure that we're projecting it correctly. So it's a good problem, but I want to make sure we know why it's a good problem.
Do the pilot agreements specify a dollar amount?
They do. And the vast majority of this is our watershed land, the land that the state pays us to protect. It's almost 370 of it. So it's the other 360 of it this year. I apologize. It's the other 56. So I know we have some agreements. I'm just missing one or
Okay.
not doing one correctly. And that's just me being as candid as possible. But we will know this answer by the end of this month.
Right, because we can just add them up, right? I mean, isn't
Yes.
that, right, okay.
But a lot of this is, and I talked to some peers, a lot of it is continuity at the finance team level. So
Mhm.
now that we have 3 years together, most of us, we're starting to really dig into these numbers. Hopefully we can give you a future with that so that
Okay.
you're not relying on staff.
Okay,
So ambulance, that's right where we expect it to be. This fees line, it's at 47%. So we caught a couple problems here. We weren't capturing our Board of Health fees, and we talked to Board of Health about that, and we now are. So instead of these all going into a revolving account, we're splitting it with the general fund. We've agreed on the level, and this will go way up next year. The police fees weren't going to the right. They were going into to our coffers. We weren't not collecting the money. They just aren't being reported correctly here. So both of those combined would bring this number up a lot. The rest of it is people weren't paying as many fees in the fourth quarter. So that's why
right,
that number.
but it's not a collection issue.
No,
Okay,
but every time we see one of these numbers, we make sure.
okay,
So it's a where's the money going problem.
Okay.
And then, because if they go into our revolving accounts, that's good, but we should know what we're using in the revolving accounts for, which is another side of this that we're looking at to make sure that we don't have too many and that they're being used right and that money's just not sitting there.
yeah,
So then licenses and permits, building permits were way down, and that also showed up in our new growth. So that was a double whammy. So that's the majority of this missing revenue. We already have several building permits for this year for FY21, so that number should be much better next year. And then our state aid numbers, we've asked the state to tell us why we're slow on our veterans exemptions. And they're getting us an answer. I'm sure that'll come quick. And then veteran benefits, you remember the money we're outlaying is going way down, so is our reimbursement. So this will catch up and we'll even off next year.
okay,
So overall, and then the rest of this is miscellaneous revenue, which you can't count on. One of it was the sale of the Ragged Hill land. And then here is all of the revenue that wasn't accounted for. A lot of this is us closing out accounts that, as I'm saying, we're cleaning up accounts. You can't count on that revenue and we didn't budget it, but it certainly does help. So if you take we couldn't count on the money, right? This 90,000, and you take that we were at 101 in our projections, you get plus. So this is what we budgeted, 1.3 million and change, and we received 1.46. So we're positive 106 on the year. So what that means for our new members is that turns into free cash. What it's telling me from a strategic level is we are missing some of these revenues up here. So we have to keep looking at accounts, and we need to make sure that we're more conservative with our projections because we want to generate 100,000, but this year we generated 100,000 with things we weren't expecting. So we also expected our revenues to be down because of COVID. So just something to focus on, and we have been in the last couple months to make sure that's right. We also changed this projection, this DOR projection, down by 60, 70,000 this year. So we're comfortable with that number right now. So kind of remember 100,000 on the revenue side. Now I'm going to show you this is the end of year expense side. Again, still some massaging to do here in a legally correct way, meaning we need to make sure everything is lined up perfect for our end of year audit. So some money shifts here and there in a transparent way that certainly we would publish on the internet. So going through the lines, And we go through these in all the quarterly reports, so it's not overly surprising. But I'm just coming down here. Sorry, I just missed it. Okay, so this line right here, general fund. So we spent, we said we were going to spend 9.95 million, and we spent 9.54 million for a positive of 409,000. Now that doesn't mean we have all that money, because some of these projects up here, you're following me, right? You're seeing the PDF.
Yep.
Some of these projects up here aren't done yet, like the town center project or the, where's the other one? The FD exhaust fan, right? So that makes up quite a bit. It's about 130,000 or so.
Okay.
So what we know right now is if you take conservatively 200,000 out of this for encumbrances and stuff we need to continue, that gives us 200,000 on the positive on the expense side, 200,000 positive, or 100,000 on the revenue side. And my budget recommendation to you for this coming town meeting is 100,000 to reserve in free cash, which puts us right around 400,000 conservative number for free cash for next year. So we want to be around 500,000. And I think we might creep up to that number. I just don't want to give you that number and be way off. So what that means for us is we have enough to cover the money that we use in the operating budget, just in case we need to continue doing that. And we have enough to pay for the capital plan for next year. And then we have a little bit of a cushion in free cash, which is where we want to be in terms of budget flexibility. So in a really bad year, or quarter year, I should say, we did what we said we were going to do, which is good. My one caveat to that is we have no idea what we're facing this coming year. Although revenues so far have been okay, who knows what happens in the fall. So I'm conservatively optimistic about our financial picture. So any questions about that before I quickly move on?
I'm good.
Nope.
If any of you have any, you want to dig deeper, then I'm happy to. We put this all on the website, so we're very transparent, and those issues, we're focusing heavily on them so that we can next year be just talking. We should know exactly where we're at all times. And right now we know exactly where we're at 95% of the time. So we're close.
Right.
Okay. I will show you the budget now for 21. And then it's funny, you heard me talk about 22. So 20, 21, 22, all right in a row.
Yeah.
The 21 we already passed, but I was talking a lot with you about how we would need to change this budget or amend it. So the good news is not a lot of amending to do. And all of it can balance, and there's some good news in here too. So everything in yellow is a change. So this is the summary side, and I'm going to talk about revenue. So my recommendation for town meeting, and also now the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen, is that we use the real new growth number, which we estimated at 20 and was actually 14.5. So that's a loss of revenue.
Yep.
We're recommending that we use 50,000 less in free cash, which is good news. And this is back to the FY20 level, and something we hope that we can take out in 22. It's just not best practice, but we do have enough free cash to cover it. So that does look favorably in DOR's level. In terms of local receipts, so we budgeted this number 5. You're following my spreadsheet, right? I'm sorry.
Yep.
So we budgeted 535 in state aid. This is state aid, because everything we were told and everything we were told to do was to budget at the 2008 financial crisis level, which is what we did. We put it down to that level. The governor and the Department of Revenue came out and said they're going to level fund us from FY20, which means this number for us. So it's less than last year because we lost some veteran benefit money, but way better than we thought. So that's the main thing that's saving us here, is we were conservative for flexibility and it paid off. So that makes up the majority of that, is that free cash offset that we're not using.
Mm-hmm.
So same projection for local receipts. If you saw last year, we budgeted approximately 1.36. So we're way down this year to account for COVID-related revenue offsets.
Mhm.
That should help us meet that number again. So still on the summary side, and I'll get to this detail here. After town meeting, that's all here on the left side. So we had 545 in free cash. We used 30 from the capital budget for the capital budget, a deferred capital budget, 81 from the town center project and the master plan project, and 150 in free cash for a total of 261, which left us 284,743. So we asked the Department of Revenue if we could use that until we set our tax rate, which you normally can't do, and they approved it. So we have 284,743 for this town meeting. So I'll show you in a second. We're asking for 216,800 in capital requests that we deferred.
Is that
a couple,
all of them?
all of them, and a couple emergency things that I'll show you quickly.
Okay.
And then this is a savings to put into our capital stabilization account that allows us to balance our budget. So with those two uses of free cash, we have 52,000 remaining. And if you remember, we used 50,000 less in free cash. So that's the 100,000 that we're reserving for 21.
Okay.
That'll roll into both of our, the stuff we didn't spend in 20 and the revenue that we didn't anticipate, which creates the number that I was talking about before. So expense side, the legal budget, we're just restoring it to FY20 level for a $2,000 difference because that budget is, it's good to have. The assessing assistant budget, we're just bringing it to actual. We weren't sure about that employee staying, and we believe she's going to stay now, so we're just going to budget her actual rather than a placeholder.
Okay.
And all the way down, the putting 1,000 back in the Slade building. As you know, we just continue to pump money into that thing.
Yeah.
Just trying to reserve money there. This is the Quabbin assessment. So they picked our number from town meeting. The difference between our town meeting number and this number is a change in minimum local contribution, which is not the school committee's doing.
Right.
So they passed the same budget that we did, but our budget went up $14,000. So that's the difference here between this and this, is what the state said we owe based off of the budget we said we were going to pass, which I can get into all day, but it's correct, but it's confusing.
Yep. Okay. All right.
And then I think there's one more. So unemployment, we're already getting our unemployment claims. We're just adding money to this to try and stave off that. We're probably even going to have to ask you for more, but everybody's facing that because we continue to have unemployment problems, unavoidable state law stuff. So that's it on the expense side. So if you go back to the summary, that's this, our new revenues balanced with our budget for a total budget change of a little under 20,000.
Okay.
So then two more things, and then I'll stop bombarding you with info. This is a look at our town reserves. So this is proposed as I'm recommending to you for town meeting. Stabilization is at 4.47%. We want to be at 5%, so we're inching up close to that. With 15,000 returning to this capital stabilization. Remember last fall we used it for the center school roof feasibility study. That brings us back to 0.61% of the operating budget. Our goal is 1%. And then free cash, we will be, if you remember my number, at 400,000 or 500,000, and our target's 5%. But right now we'd only have 102 left until the tax rate is set in 2 months. So even without that money that we know that we have, which doesn't get certified until we close 20, we have 6% reserves, or almost 600,000, to cover any catastrophe that's coming our way. And if it's worse than COVID, then I don't know what we're going to do. So
Yeah.
So in the capital plan, nothing changed except for the following things. So asphalt, DPW truck, the equipment for the cemetery. We already paid for the police chief's response truck, fire chief's response truck. We used the Holden Hospital account for that, which is, it's one of the things is for emergency vehicles. So we weren't taxing another account. We had almost 90,000 in there. So we used 42 of it to buy this truck.
Good.
This exhaust mitigation system, so you remember this from a couple years ago. We're just unsure what this bid's going to come in a couple weeks, so we're just asking for this just in case. We think it'll be somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000. We have 50,000 right now, so this covers us. If we don't use it, it rolls back into free cash for next year's capital. Library Foundation, we took that out until they're done with their assessment, which they started to look at, and I'm talking to the library trustees about tomorrow, so we don't need that for this town meeting. The roof that caved in, we're making sure that the rest of it doesn't do that because we were told that it's probably going to. So we need to do the second part of this project, which is why we're asking for another 10,000 to complete that project. We expect it to be about the same price, about 8,500. And then this vehicle camera and storage. So we had 10,000 in the capital plan for the cameras themselves and then 5,000 for automatic storage. We just feel like, when I say we, I mean the staff, given the environment we're in with our police, that we need to protect our employees and our residents with as much of modern technology as we can, especially recording equipment. So why not knock that all out now if we can and make sure that it's fully working. So that's my argument for just getting it all done this year.
Okay.
Bandstand roof stays. We already completed our IT hardware and software, so we don't need that. And then we're asking for 18,000 to pave the Slade building parking lot, which is pretty bad these days, for a total of, as I told you before, $216,800.
Okay.
So all those numbers, just go through this quickly again. A loss of revenue from our new growth, a loss of revenue from our free cash, which is a good loss, a big gain in our state local aid, no change in our local receipts equals this revenue number, and then those 20,000 or so in expense changes plus the loss of free cash eats up that new revenue. And then on the one-time revenue side, we had the 284, we're looking to spend 216 plus save 15,000 to leave us with our target of 100,000 for the year. Is anybody blind yet?
No, all good. Wow, looks pretty good for right this minute.
Gonna survive 21. I can't
Yeah.
promise you 22 yet, but we have a very strong base to absorb whatever's coming. So if we can't solve 22, nobody can. So that should make people feel a little bit better.
All right, great.
And I think that's everything you asked.
Do you have, we were going to take a look at the warrant articles. Do you
Oh yeah,
have
I'm sorry.
normal?
All right, so
Email us because you're going to be leaving here in a little bit.
yep, I'll email them to you. This is it right here. There's not a lot to it.
Right.
So this first article is the budget, as you were just shown.
Okay.
The second article, and these all say FinCom to report at town meeting, so there's no pressure for you to, we already posted it, so.
Oh, all right. Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
So the second article is the exact number for the Quabbin
Yeah.
assessment change that we talked about.
Okay.
The third article is, and of course, you can go through each line, all of the capital transfer. So it's the capital budget article, the 216.8. That's all laid out here.
Yeah.
Article 5, sometimes you weigh in on these, sometimes you don't, but the selectmen are in the planning board are saying that the associate member should be appointed from the residents of the town. Right now, it doesn't have to be a resident. So they're just looking to change that language.
Oh.
And that came from some of those discussions, more contentious discussions about the associate member, but they've come together and are now fixing that language. So it's a good thing.
Good.
And Article 6 is an easement to allow the construction of a radio communications tower at 21 Gardner Road. So this isn't new, but it feels really new to some. This is about 5 years old, but it's just been stalled. So now we're getting it done. So this is a 160-foot tower on the land that was reserved for the Senior Center Public Safety Building a long time ago. And what this will do will allow us to defeat some of our dead zones for dispatch coverage. And then eventually we'll be able to lease out that tower space to cellular providers to help our public safety and improve self-service in town, which is good during COVID and good during any time, especially for economic development.
Well, good. Well, I'll be able to see it from my house, but I won't complain. How's that? For being such a sport.
Yes. So the Board of Selectmen does not need, they've approved in theory, what the town needs to allow is the easement. So the town
Right.
can stop the easement and that would stop the project.
Yeah,
Kind of good checks and balances, but
yeah, okay. All right, great. Well, let me ask my committee. We just spun through those warrant articles. Do we want to discuss them in any more detail? Or do you think we could blanket approve them now?
I think we could blanket approve them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Pete. Pete, what do you think? Pete, I can't hear you. Are you muted? Can anybody
Yeah,
hear-
Pete, you're muted.
You're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, dogs. Yeah. I skimmed them quickly. I'd like to read them quickly one more time, but
Okay.
you know, I don't see a problem when at first glance.
Okay, well, then, all right, so Ryan, you have sent them to us?
sending them to you right now.
Okay,
You have everything I just talked about.
okay, great.
Actually,
you.
I didn't send the 20 stuff, but that was more of a just letting you know where we're at this point.
Yeah,
We can't change it.
Yeah, that's over with. Yeah, I'm interested in what we can do for the warrant articles, because our town meeting is the 24th.
24th at the center school at 7 p.m.
Right, and to the committee, I would not anticipate doing another meeting before the 24th. So if we can spend some time tonight looking at the warrant articles, I'd like to vote our recommendations tonight.
Okay,
So I almost never do
Okay.
this to you guys, but if you need me, call me even tonight if you want to go over anything. I just have another commitment.
Yep, no problem.
And I'd be happy to sit with anybody or Zoom with anybody and walk through these documents slower for understanding. Happy to do it. I'm a municipal nerd, so
Okay.
let me know what you need.
All right, great.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
All right.
Thank you,
bye.
Ryan.
All righty. All right, Peter, are you gonna feel rushed?
I don't necessarily know if I'm feeling rushed or not. First time I saw them, I didn't want to just blanket approve it. I'm not trying, like I say, I don't see a problem with them at the first go through, but that was just now.
Right, we all did, yeah.
And
Well, then
you know,
we're gonna have to schedule another meeting between now and the 24th to vote our recommendations.
no, Ryan just sent them to me, to us. I intend to read them right now, and
Okay.
perhaps while we're having our meeting, I can give my opinion. But we don't need a unanimous decision on that, do we?
No, we don't.
Okay, good. I don't mean to stall it.
I always like to have one. I always like to have one. So if you need more time, that's fine.
I don't expect more than a few more minutes.
Okay. All right, we'll just take a little break here. You let us know when you're ready to regroup.
Hi, I'm back, and
Okay.
I'm willing to go forward with this.
Okay, great. So could I have a motion to recommend at town meeting the warrant articles as presented?
I make that motion.
Great.
I'll
Second?
second it.
All right, any further discussion? All right, let's have a voice vote then. Susan votes yes to approve, or to recommend, rather.
Chuck votes yes to recommend.
Peter votes yes to recommend.
Maria says yes.
Great, thank you. All right, excellent. All right, we have, getting back to my agenda here, which I've now found. Ryan asks that one of us serve on the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. It's a one-year commitment.
What does that involve?
That involves coming up with the list of capital projects that we have just recommended. So that is having conversation, that the committee, I recall because I was on it a few years ago, needs to discuss the recommendations, the asks of the various departments for their capital projects, and then we decide what we're gonna serve up to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee.
About how many people are on the committee?
It's on the website, and I think there's maybe 5 or 6.
Okay.
We can take a peek.
Did you enjoy your time on the committee?
I love all my time on all
Oh, good. Good answer.
That's why she's still on it.
No, I think I can't remember if I left or if they threw me out. I don't remember how that ended.
So I guess it's not, wouldn't be considered a conflict when they're coming up with the proposals and that person would be voting on it then and then come to the finance committee and vote on it again.
I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily think so. I mean, oh, and I'm looking out here on the website. It consists of 5 members. It's a member of the finance committee, a member of the planning board, and then 3 town residents appointed by the Board of Selectmen for terms of 3 years. And the job is to submit the capital plan annually to the town administrator, who reviews it and forwards it to the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee with recommendations. And the role of the committee and procedures are governed by the town bylaws. The current members are Stephanie Alice, William Murray, oh, Bill Murray, okay. Francois Steiger, and he's the planning board member. We have a vacancy for finance committee, and then Michael Stoddard, our former selectman, is chairman of it. So, if any of you are,
So we nominate Josh because he's not here.
Yeah, that's what I thought too when he sent the email.
oh, you guys, I have such a happy committee, and you're gonna blow it up. Well, if any of you are interested in doing it, speak up now, because otherwise I'll do it.
I might be interested, but I want to check a little bit online about it.
Okay. All right, we can drag that out some more then, and when we schedule our next meeting, we'll do it then.
Would we? So we would need to vote.
I think we need to. Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
we should vote to select someone to be that rep.
Okay.
That's okay. They've limped along this far without us. They can wait another few weeks. And in terms of the, let's see. All right, so that's that. We need to vote to approve the $8,500 reserve request to fix the police department ceiling. So I will take a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, we'll take the voice vote again. Susan votes yes.
Chuck votes yes.
Peter votes yes.
Maria votes yes.
Oh, Ryan had sent the transfer document to me, so I will sign that and get that over to them. All right, we had his report. Voted on a budget, our warrant articles. The discussion of operation and capital budget goals. As I had mentioned, I'd like to do that with a full committee with Josh here as well. So I'll circulate an email and ask everybody for time availability and so forth after town meeting, maybe first week in October.
Okay.
Generally, does that sound all right?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I don't have any other or new business. Does anyone else have anything to talk about or that they'd like to?
I have nothing.
I do not.
Me neither.
All right. Then I think we've talked about everything, so I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right. Voice vote, Susan, yes.
Chuck, yes.
Peter, yes.
Maria, yes.